Welcome, NutritionRadio.org listeners. This is Lonnie Lowry, a university nutrition professor of over 20 years and podcast host of long-running shows like Iron Radio. Come on in. Trends in Science.
Hey, everybody. We've got a trend in science for you today that's, well, very trendy. It's meatless diets. There's a new paper. I'm going to focus on an editorial here in the Journal of Nutrition. It's one of the primary journals from one of my societies, the American Society of Nutrition. It may be behind a paywall for you, so we're just going to get some commentary on this. Meatless muscle growth, building muscle size and strength on a mycoprotein-rich vegan diet. So myco meaning fungal, right? And really that's what caught my eye. I'm not a huge fan of plant proteins, as I've read about them in the literature, right? Lower digestibility, lacking in some way in certain essential amino acids, that sort of thing. But this is fungal. This is not plant. I think oftentimes when we hear vegan, we think plant. I think a lot of common people, even people who might be vegans, they might think of it that way. Certainly not all of them. But this is not plant. In fact, fungi were originally categorized as plants. There's a great piece from the American Society for Microbiology. 3 reasons fungi are not plants. And number 3 on their list here, I think, is great. It says molecular evidence demonstrates fungi are more closely related to animals than to plants. The proposed separation of fungi and plants is indisputably supported by molecular evidence. Again, more closely related to animals than to plants. That's why I think you look at some of these data and they're quite favorable. It's just a better source. If you're like me, you're interested in different types of protein and how they might support muscle mass. But there's something more here. Let's revisit this title. Mycoprotein-rich vegan diet that includes creatine. I think that's very important. This is a high-protein study. It includes creatine. The authors and the editorial authors here, Hanayan and Churchward-Venn, they're both sort of pointing this idea that this is really optimized for muscle growth, okay? But let's take a look at the introduction. The quality of single-source plant-derived proteins based on the digestible, indispensable amino acid score. That's the DIAS, right? It's just a score if you want to go beyond complete versus incomplete proteins and get a number, get a scale. The DIAS is how you do that. But the quality of single-source plant-derived proteins is typically reduced compared with that of single-source animal-derived proteins due to their lower indispensable amino acid content and their digestibility. So again, lower essential amino acids, lower digestibility. Now, I have to be careful. There are all kinds of plant proteins. They have different protein quality based on the DIAS, okay? However, let's focus on this one here because of the focus on the fungal proteins. In a new study, Montaigne et al. Carried out a 2-phase parallel group study comparing high-protein, quote-unquote, vegan versus omnivorous diets on various aspects of resistance exercise training-induced skeletal muscle remodeling in healthy young adults with prior training experience. So this really checks a lot of the boxes for me. They're already on a high-protein diet. They're young enough. They're going to get a robust protein synthetic effect, and we'll talk about age in just a minute, but also they're experienced lifters. So it really does have a lot of the things that I used to ask as a competitive bodybuilder. Does this apply to me? Yeah, if you're in those categories in this population, it applies to you. So in phase 1, it was a more acute, it was a 3-day short-term study, high protein, 1.8 grams per kg of their body mass each day, omnivorous versus this myco-predominant vegan dietary intervention in conjunction with performance of daily single-leg resistance exercise. They used stable isotopes. They collected saliva. They took muscle biopsies. They're looking at myofibrillar protein synthesis, the rates in both exercised and non-exercised muscle, because that's handy to know, right? Is it just a post-workout kind of scenario, or is it, during other times? At least this is a way to try to get closer to that answer. Noteworthy, they say, is that habitual dietary protein in the participants was already quite high, 1.6 grams per kg per day. Consequently, there was no significant difference in the absolute or relative amount of protein that they consumed between the habitual and the intervention. So as far as protein daily dose, they're pretty much staying steady throughout this study. They're just kind of switching up the type of protein, and that's really what they're getting at. The key finding from phase 1 of the study was that high-protein vegan diet, again, with the mycoprotein, more than half of it was this fungal protein, resulted in similar daily myofibrillar protein synthetic rates compared with an isonitrogenous, so same amount of nitrogen, similar amount of protein, in other words, omnivore diet that included, of course, milk, eggs, meat, that sort of thing. Now, phase 2 of this study was 10 weeks of training, high volume, 5 days a week, progressive resistance training while consuming either the high protein, in this case, it looks like shooting for 2 grams per kg per day, the omnivore diet, or this mycoprotein fungal vegan diet. Skeletal muscle fiber cross-sectional area was looked at, whole body lean mass, thigh muscle volume, muscle strength, muscle function. They looked at this baseline, and then at weeks 2, 5, and 10 of training. This time there was a significant increase in the amount of dietary protein consumed between the habitual and the intervention diets. The key finding from phase 2 was that a high-protein vegan diet rich in mycoprotein elicited similar increases in skeletal muscle fiber cross-sectional area, whole body lean mass, thigh muscle volume, strength, and function in response to a 10-week resistance training intervention. So this is all quite promising looking. And again, I look at this in a different light, right? This is an unusual kind of protein. But let me just touch on that quickly. This is the Quorn, Q-U-O-R-N, meat substitute that they're using. And I had to dig for this quite a bit. But there was a paper in 2018 that was headed up by Michael Jacobson in the Annals of Allergy, Asthma, and Immunology. And it actually suggests that there may be some concerns for allergic or gastrointestinal reactions. Now, let's be fair, it's not like milk and eggs are completely free of that. But earlier I was mentioning whether or not this may apply to you. Are you the kind of person who really pounds the protein? Because this is almost a gram per pound. This is the way I lived for a long time. But it does say a recent meta-analysis with a sample of over 8,000 community-dwelling older adults reported that about 20% of them had daily protein intake below 0.8 grams per kg per day. So below the RDA, nowhere near this amount. And it says that nearly 50% of older adults had a daily protein intake below 1 gram per kg per day. And that's a level that a lot of people are suggesting the RDA should be set at anyway. But if you're a bodybuilder or an athlete, that is going to seem like a tiny amount for you. Also, it does say phase 2 of the study, participants in the vegan and the omnivorous protein groups exceeded the 1.6 grams per kg of their body weight each day. That's the sort of classic amount that people like Peter Lemon, my old advisor, and lots of others have really landed on as what you need. About double the RDA when you're lifting, right, and going for maximum gains with a Z. In any case, it says in addition, both groups also receive supplemental creatine monohydrate. Now, this is something else that's usually considered an animal, like a zoo chemical, animal source. You can have it chemically synthesized and take it as a supplement to try to work around what non-meats lack. But they took creatine 25 grams a day for 5 days and then 5 grams per day thereafter. So they did the classic like load and maintain, which is in the literature, quite a bit. So it says creatine, a compound well established to amplify resistance training induced increases in lean body mass and strength. So that's another thing we need to think. Is this just about the protein? We have to be very careful, in my mind, just overemphasizing, vegan protein, the same as, omnivorous diet with milk and egg and meat. Maybe, but you're supplementing what's classically a zoo chemical, an animal source chemical. But, if you're really against some of the ethics and some of the other things that go into meat eating, these are workarounds that you can employ. And at present, I'm not super alarmed at this Quorn fungal protein. It's Fusarium venenatum fungus. It's FDA accepted as GRAS, right? It's generally recognized as safe. So I'm not too worried about this. I am going to keep my eye on fungal proteins as another source of protein that can help support muscle growth when you're eating plenty of protein, and especially when you're taking some creatine as well. But this is cool that we're exploring this stuff in the alt protein world. I think fungal proteins, again, being closer to animals than to plants, just make a lot of sense. But we'll end it there today. If you like this kind of content, a little sneak peek into the literature, sometimes even before it's easy for most people to get, leave a review on iTunes. It really helps us out. nutritionradio.org on iTunes, or even leave a comment on YouTube. I really got to get around to reading some of those comments. It's Lawnman07 on YouTube.
The nutritionradio.org podcast is for informational purposes only. If you're interested in starting a diet or exercise program, check with your physician, nutritionist, or qualified exercise physiologist in order to make the progress that you need.